Admiral Kang Hyun stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching the massive space station grow larger as their ship approached. Nexus Prime was unlike anything he had ever seen. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, its crystal walls reflecting the light of nearby stars. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its countless ports, each one carrying representatives from species humanity had never encountered. "It's beautiful," Dr. Park Mina whispered beside him. She pressed her face against the viewing window, her eyes wide with wonder. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she had dreamed of this moment her entire life. First contact with hundreds of alien species at once. Commander Lee Junho remained silent, his military training keeping his emotions in check. But Kang Hyun could see the tension in his shoulders. Unlike Park Mina, Junho understood why they were really here. This wasn't a celebration of Earth joining the galactic community. This was a trial. Their ship, the Soul, was one of only 3 vessels humanity had been allowed to bring. It was small compared to the alien ships surrounding them. Some of the other vessels were the size of cities, their hulls covered in strange patterns that hurt to look at directly. Others seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting and flowing like liquid light. "Incoming transmission," announced their pilot, Captain Kim Do-yeon. "Nexus Prime is requesting our docking codes." "Send them," Kang Hyun replied. He straightened his uniform and checked his appearance one last time. As Earth's chief diplomat, he would be speaking for all of humanity today. The weight of 8 billion lives rested on his shoulders. The docking process took nearly an hour. The Soul was guided to a small platform on the outer ring of the station, far from the impressive central docks where the larger alien ships berthed. Even in their seating arrangements, the aliens were making a statement about humanity's place in their hierarchy. As they disembarked, Kang Hyun got his first close look at alien architecture. The docking bay walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a slow rhythm. The floor beneath their feet was warm and slightly soft, like walking on living tissue. Strange symbols floated in the air, glowing and shifting as they watched. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said a voice behind them. They turned to see their first alien guide, a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. Its face was mostly human-like, but its eyes were completely black and far too large. "I am Guide Velnara. I will escort you to the council chambers." They followed Velnara through corridors that seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways. Sometimes the ceiling was above them, sometimes it was to their side. Park Mina kept stopping to examine the walls, which appeared to be alive. Small creatures moved beneath the surface like fish swimming through glass. "How long has Nexus Prime existed?" Park Mina asked their guide. "Time is difficult to measure in your terms," Velnara replied. "Perhaps 50,000 of your years. It was built when the galaxy was young and species were fewer." 50,000 years, Junho muttered under his breath, "and we've only had spaceflight for a century." They passed through several security checkpoints, each one more elaborate than the last. At the final gate, strange devices scanned them with beams of colored light. Kang Hyun felt the beams penetrate his body, examining every cell. It was uncomfortable, but not painful. "They're looking for weapons," Junho observed quietly. "They won't find any," Kang Hyun replied. "We came here in good faith." The Grand Assembly Hall was breathtaking. The chamber was a massive dome that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. Tiered seating rose in circles around a central platform, and every seat was filled with alien beings. Kang Hyun counted at least 50 different species just in his immediate view. Some aliens looked almost human, differing only in skin color or eye shape. Others were so strange that his mind struggled to process them. He saw creatures made of living stone, beings that appeared to be pure energy contained in geometric shapes, and things that seemed to exist in more dimensions than his eyes could follow. The humans were led to a small section near the bottom of the chamber. Their seats were clearly marked as the defendants area. Around them, alien delegates turned to stare. Some pointed with appendages that weren't quite hands. Others made sounds that might have been communication or might have been laughter. "They're treating us like criminals," Park Mina whispered. "Because to them we are," Kang Hyun replied. A deep tone filled the chamber, and all conversation stopped. At the center of the platform, a figure began to materialize. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in their minds. "I am High Chancellor Vexitar of the Hegemony," the figure announced. "This session of the Galactic Council is now in order. Today we decide the fate of the species calling itself human." Vexitar gestured toward the human delegation. "Representatives of Sol 3, you stand accused of being a threat to galactic peace and stability. Your species has been observed for one of your years. The evidence against you is substantial." A three-dimensional display appeared above the platform, showing images from Earth's history. Battlefields from ancient wars, nuclear explosions, burning cities, and weapons of mass destruction. The images were accompanied by narration in a voice that carried no emotion. The human species has engaged in constant warfare throughout its recorded history. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over. Despite being a young species with limited technology, they have already begun weaponizing quantum physics in ways that violate several galactic peace accords. Kang Hyun felt his heart sink as the evidence mounted. Every dark moment in human history was displayed for the galaxy to see. Wars, genocides, environmental destruction, and the recent development of quantum weapons that had made Earth a concern to galactic observers. Furthermore, Vexitar continued, psychological analysis indicates that humans possess an unusual level of aggression and adaptability. Left unchecked, they could become a significant threat to established galactic order within a few centuries. The presentation ended, and Vexitar turned to address the assembly. The council must decide, should this species be allowed to develop independently, or should they be placed under galactic supervision for the safety of all? Kang Hyun realized, with growing horror, that galactic supervision was a polite term for slavery. The voting began immediately. Species after species stood to announce their decision. The process was swift and brutal. The Avari Collective votes for supervision, announced a bird-like creature with brilliant blue feathers. The Shard Minds vote for supervision, came a voice like breaking glass from a crystalline being. The Depth Dwellers vote for supervision, gurgled an aquatic creature in a water-filled environmental suit. One by one they voted. Some species Kang Hyun had never heard of, others that seemed ancient and wise. All of them voted the same way. Supervision, control, slavery. Even the peaceful Verdani, a plant-based species known for their philosophy of nonviolence, voted for human supervision. Their representative, a tall, tree-like being, explained their decision in a voice like rustling leaves. The human capacity for destruction is too great. For the good of all life in the galaxy, they must be guided and controlled. Hours passed. The votes kept coming. 846 species in total, and every single one voted for human enslavement. Only one abstained, a mysterious group called the Watchers, who never explained their decisions and rarely spoke during council sessions. When the final vote was counted, Vexitar announced the result. The decision is unanimous. The human species will be placed under galactic supervision effective immediately. Their technology will be controlled, their expansion limited, and their society restructured for the safety of all. The chamber erupted in what might have been applause from hundreds of different species. Strange sounds, clicking, chirping, and harmonics that human ears couldn't properly process filled the air. Kang Hyun stood slowly. His legs felt weak, but his voice remained strong. "We request permission to respond to this verdict." The chamber fell silent. Vexitar's eyeless face turned toward him. "You may speak, human." "My name is Admiral Kang Hyun, and I speak for the people of Earth," he began. His voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. "We came here in peace, hoping to join the galactic community as equals. Instead, you have judged us based on our past and condemned us for crimes we might commit in the future." He paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. "You fear our potential for violence, but what you're proposing is violence itself. You fear our weapons, but you plan to use overwhelming force against us. You fear our aggression, but you have acted with aggression toward us." Park Mina and Junho stood beside him, their faces grim but determined. "You have judged humanity without understanding us," Kang Hyun continued. "Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made weapons. But we have also created art, music, and literature. We have shown mercy to our enemies, protected the weak, and sacrificed ourselves for strangers. You have seen only our capacity for destruction and ignored our capacity for creation and compassion." The chamber remained silent, but Kang Hyun could feel the attention of every being present focused on him. "We reject your authority over us," he said firmly. "We reject your verdict, and we promise you this: you will regret." 6 months had passed since the Galactic fleet arrived at Earth, and the world looked nothing like it once did. Captain Nam Ji-won crouched in the ruins of what used to be downtown Seoul, watching an alien patrol move through the rubble-filled streets below. The massive creatures walked on 6 legs and stood 3 meters tall, their armor gleaming in the pale sunlight that now filtered through the energy shields surrounding the planet. The shields had been the first thing the aliens installed. They blocked most of the sun's light, leaving Earth in a permanent twilight that matched the mood of its enslaved population. The aliens called it atmospheric regulation for optimal work conditions. The humans called it psychological warfare. Nam Ji-won adjusted her position behind a collapsed concrete wall, careful not to make any noise. Her team of 12 former soldiers lay hidden around her, waiting for her signal. They had been planning this ambush for 2 weeks, watching the alien patrol routes and timing their movements. Today they would strike back, even if it was just a small victory. "Target approaching checkpoint 7, whispered Lee Kyung through her earpiece. He was positioned 2 blocks away with a clear view of the street. 6 hostiles, standard patrol formation. "Weapons ready," Nam Ji-won replied quietly to her team. They carried what few weapons they had managed to hide from the alien confiscation sweeps: assault rifles, grenades, and improvised explosives made from materials scavenged from the ruins. It wasn't much against alien technology, but it was all they had. The alien patrol rounded the corner, their heavy footsteps echoing off the empty buildings. These were enforcers, one of the many species that served the Galactic Council as peacekeepers. They were strong, well-armed, and completely ruthless when dealing with human resistance. "Now," Nam Ji-won whispered. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. Her team opened fire from multiple directions, their bullets striking the aliens, armor and energy shields. The enforcers stumbled but didn't fall. Their return fire was devastating. Energy beams that cut through concrete like paper and turned metal into vapor. 2 of Nam Ji-won's soldiers died in the first exchange. Park Sun-ho, a former Marine, was hit by an energy blast that simply erased the upper half of his body. Kim Yeona, barely 19 years old, was caught by falling debris when an energy beam destroyed the building she was hiding behind. But the humans had learned to adapt. They no longer stood and fought like traditional soldiers. Instead, they hit hard and fast, then disappeared into the maze of underground tunnels they had spent months digging. By the time alien reinforcements arrived, Nam Ji-won and her surviving team members were already deep underground, moving through the subway system toward their next safe house. Above ground, the aliens would conduct their standard retaliation. They would round up 50 random civilians and execute them in the public square as punishment for the attack. It was their way of discouraging resistance. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it just made more people angry enough to join the fight. Across the city, Dr. Choi Hana worked in a different kind of resistance. Her laboratory was hidden 3 levels below the ruins of Seoul National University, powered by a small fusion reactor she had built from salvaged equipment. The aliens had confiscated all obvious technology, but they had missed the components that looked like junk to their scans. Choi Hana had been working on the same problem for months: how to turn human biology into a weapon. The aliens controlled the skies and had superior firepower, but they had one weakness. They didn't understand humans as well as they thought they did. "Another test failure," she muttered, looking at the readings on her improvised scanner. She had been trying to weaponize the human nervous system, to find a way to disrupt alien communication networks. Humans generated small electrical fields, and some alien species relied on bioelectrical communication. If she could amplify and focus that energy, her assistant, Dr. Yoon Suki looked up from her own workstation. The quantum resonance is still too weak. We need a stronger catalyst. Or a different approach entirely, Choi Hana replied. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked around the laboratory. It was a far cry from the modern research facility she had worked in before the invasion. Now she made do with equipment built from scrap metal and components salvaged from destroyed electronics. What about the reports from the mining camps? Yoon Suki asked. Some of the workers are reporting strange experiences. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes. The aliens think it's just stress responses, but the medical data doesn't match. Choi Hana frowned. She had heard similar reports from other resistance cells. Humans working in the alien mining operations, especially those exposed to certain types of radiation, were displaying unusual physical capabilities. The aliens dismissed it as imagination or measurement errors, but Choi Hana wasn't so sure. Get me samples, she said. Blood, tissue, anything you can from the enhanced workers. There might be something there. In orbit above Earth, Commander, Yoon Taik piloted one of the last free human ships through the asteroid field, where the planet's moons used to be. The aliens had destroyed Luna and the smaller satellites during the initial invasion, claiming they were potential military bases. Now the debris served as cover for the few human vessels that had escaped the initial assault. His ship, the Busan, was a modified freight hauler that barely qualified as a warship. It carried 6 missile tubes, outdated sensors, and armor that was more hope than protection. But it was fast, and Yoon Taik had learned to use the asteroid field to his advantage. Contact bearing 270, reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Song Minji. Alien supply convoy, 3 cargo ships, with 2 escort fighters. Yoon Taik studied the tactical display. The convoy was heading toward the mining stations on what used to be the dark side of the moon. They were carrying supplies and equipment for the human work camps. More importantly, they would be carrying refined materials back to the alien fleet. Plot an intercept course, he ordered. We'll hit them at the debris field near Grid 77. That's awfully close to their patrol routes, Song Minjae warned. Close is where we have the advantage, Yoon Taik replied. The attack followed the same pattern they had used dozens of times before. The Busan would hide among the larger debris pieces, waiting for the convoy to pass through the narrow navigation channel. When the alien ships were committed to their course, the human ship would emerge and fire everything it had, then disappear back into the debris before reinforcements could arrive. It worked perfectly until it didn't. The alien escort fighters were faster than expected, and their weapons reached further than the human sensors had detected. The Busan took 3 direct hits as it tried to escape, losing main power and life support. Hull breach in sections 4 and 5, Song Minjae, reported as emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. We're venting atmosphere. Seal the sections and switch to backup power, Yoon Taik ordered. How long until their reinforcements arrive? 8 minutes if we're lucky. 5 if we're not. Yoon Taik made a decision that went against every rule of space combat. Instead of running, he turned the ship around and headed straight for the alien convoy. If they were going to die anyway, they might as well take some enemies with them. The ramming attack destroyed both an alien cargo ship and the Busan. Yoon Taik and his crew of 15 died in the explosion, but their sacrifice prevented a month's worth of supplies from reaching the work camps. It was a small victory, but in a war where humanity was losing badly, small victories were all they had. Down on Earth's surface, the work camps were reaching full capacity. Humans from every continent had been sorted into labor groups and assigned to different projects. The strongest worked in the mines, extracting rare minerals that the aliens needed for their technology. The most intelligent were forced to help design and build alien equipment. The rest performed whatever manual labor their captors required. Camps were run by creatures the humans had learned to call overseers. These massive slug-like beings fed off strong emotions, particularly fear and suffering. They encouraged the alien guards to be cruel, not just because it maintained discipline, but because it provided them with nourishment. In Camp 7, located in what used to be the American Midwest, Nam Hyunwoo tried to keep his construction crew alive and functional. He had been a civil engineer before the invasion, and now he was forced to use his knowledge to build alien facilities. The irony wasn't lost on him that he was literally building his own prison. The foundation specifications don't make sense, his assistant engineer Park Soo-jin whispered as they reviewed the alien blueprints. This structure is designed to withstand forces that would level a city. Maybe that's the point, Nam Hyun-woo replied quietly. He had learned to be careful about what he said around the alien monitoring devices. They're not just building facilities. They're building fortresses. The aliens were clearly planning to stay on Earth for a long time. The structures they forced humans to build were massive, heavily defended, and designed to control large populations. They weren't temporary occupation buildings. They were permanent installations for a permanent slave state. But something was changing in the camps. Nam Hyun-woo had noticed it first among the miners who worked deepest underground, exposed to strange radiations from alien machinery. They move. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came when patrol ship Nexus 7 simply vanished near Jupiter's orbital debris field. Admiral Velketh of the Hegemony's 7th Fleet stared at the empty sensor display where the ship had been just moments before. No distress signal, no explosion signature, no debris. 1 second the ship was there, the next it was gone. Sensor malfunction, he asked his tactical officer, though he already knew the answer. Negative, Admiral. All systems functioning normally. The ship just disappeared. Velketh frowned. In his 3 centuries of military service, he had never seen anything like it. Ships didn't just vanish without leaving some trace. Even if they were destroyed by antimatter weapons, there would be radiation signatures, debris patterns, something. Mark the location and dispatch a search team, he ordered. I want to know what happened to that ship. The search team found nothing. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no clues about what had caused an entire starship to simply cease existing. Velketh filed a report citing mechanical failure and forgot about the incident. He had more pressing concerns managing the human slave populations and maintaining security in the Sol system. 3 days later, 2 more ships disappeared. Then a supply convoy went missing between Mars and the asteroid mining stations. By the end of the week, Velketh had lost 8 vessels and nearly 1,000 crew members. It has to be some kind of human weapon, insisted his intelligence officer, Commander Zarkek. They must have hidden something from our scans during the initial conquest. Impossible, Velketh replied. We cataloged every piece of human technology. They barely had fusion power, let alone anything that could make our ships disappear. But as more reports came in, Velketh began to wonder if he had underestimated the humans. The disappearances weren't random. They followed patterns that suggested intelligence and planning. Someone was hunting his ships with deadly precision. The truth came to light during a routine inspection of the Titan mining facility. The facility was one of the largest human work camps, housing nearly 50,000 prisoners who extracted rare minerals from the frozen moon's surface. When the inspection team arrived, they found the alien guards dead and the human workers gone. Security footage revealed something that made Velketh's blood run cold. The recording showed humans moving with impossible speed and agility. They seemed to phase in and out of visibility, appearing behind guards who never saw them coming. When the humans struck, their bare hands tore through armor that should have stopped military-grade weapons. One particular recording showed a human woman, identified as former construction worker Lee Ji-yeon, lifting a 2-ton mining vehicle over her head and throwing it at a group of alien guards. Another showed a man walking through a solid steel wall as if it weren't there. This is impossible, Commander Zarkek whispered as they watched the footage. Humans don't have these capabilities. Apparently they do now, Velketh replied grimly. Reports flooded in from across the system. At the Luna processing station, 300 humans had simply walked through the containment barriers and disappeared into space without environmental suits. At the Mars terraforming facility, human workers had somehow disrupted the facility's quantum power core, causing a cascade failure that destroyed half the installation. Most disturbing of all were the reports from Earth itself. Human resistance. Cells were displaying capabilities that defied known physics. They appeared and disappeared at will, moved through solid matter, and seemed to anticipate alien tactical decisions before they were made. Dr. Veldori, the hegemony's chief xenobiologist, was brought in to study the phenomenon. After examining captured footage and bioscan data, her conclusions were deeply unsettling. The humans appear to be undergoing some form of accelerated evolution, she reported to Velketh's staff. Exposure to our quantum technology has triggered changes in their neural and cellular structure. They're developing abilities that shouldn't be possible for carbon-based life forms. Can we stop it? Velketh asked. I don't think so. The changes seem to be spreading through the human population through some form of quantum entanglement. Every human exposed to the enhancement passes it on to others through proximity alone. At current rates, the entire species will be affected within a year. On Earth, Dr. Choi Hana stared at the test results with a mixture of amazement and terror. The blood samples from enhanced humans showed cellular structures that shouldn't exist. Their neurons were firing in patterns that violated every law of biology she knew. It's not just evolution, she told her assistant Dr. Yoon Suki. It's something else entirely. The humans aren't just adapting to alien technology. They're somehow bonding with it at a quantum level. The breakthrough had come when she studied samples from the mining camps. Humans exposed to alien quantum cores weren't just developing enhanced physical abilities. They were learning to manipulate quantum fields directly, something that should have been impossible for any biological organism. Look at these neural patterns, she pointed to the brain scans on her monitor. The enhanced humans aren't thinking like normal people anymore. Their thought processes are quantum-based, allowing them to perceive and interact with reality in ways we never could before. But the most remarkable discovery was yet to come. The enhancements weren't random mutations, they were targeted improvements, designed for warfare. Enhanced humans developed exactly the abilities they needed to fight their alien captors. Those facing energy weapons became resistant to energy damage. Those fighting in space developed the ability to survive in vacuum. Those needing stealth gained the power to phase between dimensions. It's as if the quantum field itself is helping them, Yoon Suki observed. Like the universe wants them to win this war. Captain Nam Ji-won led the first major uprising in the Asian sector, and her enhanced abilities made her nearly unstoppable. She could phase through walls to bypass security, move faster than alien sensors could track, and somehow anticipate enemy movements before they happened. Her assault on the Seoul Control Center lasted less than an hour. Her team of 50 enhanced humans moved through the facility like ghosts, appearing behind alien guards and disappearing before reinforcements could respond. When it was over, every alien in the facility was dead, and the humans had gained control of the sector's communications network. This is Nam Ji-won broadcasting on all frequencies, she announced, her voice reaching resistance cells across the planet. The enhancement process is real and it works. The aliens made us stronger by trying to enslave us. Now it's time to show them what a mistake that was. Similar uprisings erupted across the globe. In North America, enhanced humans led by former engineer Park Jin-woo seized control of 3 major facilities in a single night. In Europe, a resistance cell led by Dr. Kim Sora used their new abilities to shut down the planetary defense grid, leaving Earth's orbital installations vulnerable. But the most significant development occurred when the hidden resistance discovered that Admiral Kang Hyun was still alive. The man who had rejected the Galactic Council's verdict had spent the past year in hiding, not just coordinating the resistance, but undergoing the enhancement process himself. When he finally revealed himself, broadcasting from a hidden bunker deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, he was no longer entirely human. His enhancement was far beyond anything seen before. He could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, communicate across quantum space instantly, and manipulate matter at the molecular level. People of Earth, he began his broadcast. The aliens wanted to enslave us because they feared what we might become. They were right to be afraid. But they made one critical error. They gave us the tools to become exactly what they feared most. His image appeared on screens across the planet. But it was more than just a visual transmission. Enhanced humans could feel his presence in their minds, a quantum connection that linked every evolved human on the planet into a collective consciousness. "We are no longer the species that was voted into slavery," Kang Hyun continued. "We are something new, something the galaxy has never seen before, and we will not rest until every species that voted against our freedom learns the price of that decision." The alien response was swift and violent. Orbital bombardment platforms targeted population centers, hoping to kill the enhanced humans before they could spread their abilities further. But the enhanced humans could sense the attacks coming and phase out of normal space before the weapons struck. Ground forces were deployed to retake the liberated areas, but they found themselves fighting an enemy that defied every tactical doctrine in their databases. Human fighters would appear from nowhere, strike with devastating force and vanish before they could be targeted. Alien commanders found their strategies anticipated and countered before they could be implemented. In space, Commander Yoon Taek's small fleet of human ships began hunting alien vessels with unprecedented success. The enhanced humans aboard the ships could navigate quantum space directly, appearing anywhere in the solar system instantly. They struck without warning and disappeared before the aliens could respond. The aliens' technological advantages meant nothing against an enemy that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Energy shields were useless against humans who could phase through them. Captain Park Jin-woo materialized inside the alien command ship without triggering a single alarm. His quantum-enhanced abilities allowed him to phase through the vessel's hull as if it were made of fog. Around him, his strike team of 12 enhanced humans appeared simultaneously, their arrival perfectly coordinated through their shared quantum consciousness. The bridge of the hegemony dreadnought was a masterpiece of alien engineering, filled with holographic displays and creatures from a dozen different species. None of them noticed the humans until it was far too late. Park Jin-woo moved with speed that made him invisible to unenhanced eyes. His hand passed through the first alien's chest, disrupting the quantum fields that held its cells together. The creature simply dissolved, its matter scattering like dust in the wind. Before its companions could react, the rest of his team had eliminated every other being on the bridge. "Bridge secured," he reported through the quantum link to Admiral Kang Hyun. "Beginning data extraction." The assault on the alien fleet above Earth had been planned for months. 50 enhanced human teams had phased aboard 50 different alien ships simultaneously. Within minutes, the entire fleet was either captured or destroyed. The aliens' technological superiority meant nothing against humans who could ignore physical laws. But this was just the beginning. The enhanced humans had spent the past year studying their enemies, learning about the galaxy that had voted to enslave them. Now they were ready to visit each of those 846 species and deliver their response to that vote. Dr. Song Mi-jin stood in what had once been the Pentagon, now converted into the headquarters of Human Liberation Command. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing the positions of alien fleets across the galaxy. Each red dot represented a target, each yellow dot a species that had voted for human enslavement. "The first wave of liberation fleets is ready for deployment," she reported to the assembled commanders. Song Mi-jin had been a simple material scientist before the enhancement, but her quantum-expanded mind now understood technologies that the aliens couldn't even imagine. The liberation fleets were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships that could phase through spacetime, appearing anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Weapons that attacked targets on a quantum level, bypassing all known defenses. And crews of enhanced humans who could survive in any environment and adapt to any threat. "Target priorities?" asked Commander Lee Suho, who had become the face of human military operations. His enhancement had given him the ability to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, allowing him to command dozens of operations across the galaxy at once. "The Avari Collective first," Kang Hyun replied. "They were among the most vocal supporters of our enslavement. Time to show them what that decision cost them." The Avari homeworld was a paradise of floating cities and crystal spires, home to 15 billion bird-like beings who had voted unanimously to enslave humanity. They had been celebrating their decision for over a year, enjoying the rare minerals and technologies that human slave labor had provided. The celebration ended when Lee Suho's fleet materialized in their solar system. The Avari Defense Force was impressive by galactic standards, 3,000 warships with energy weapons that could crack planets. They opened fire the moment the human ships appeared, filling space with enough destructive energy to sterilize entire star systems. The energy beams passed harmlessly through the human ships, which existed partially outside normal space-time. The enhanced humans aboard the vessels simply phased the attacks into different dimensions, where they dissipated harmlessly. The human response was devastating in its precision. Instead of destroying the Avari ships, the enhanced humans phased aboard them and began converting the crews. The quantum enhancement process could now be transmitted directly from human to alien, spreading like a virus through any population. "Please, we surrender," broadcast the Avari fleet commander as his crew began to change. "We renounce our vote. We offer full submission." "Too late," Lee Suho replied coldly. "You had your chance to choose peace. You chose slavery instead." The converted Avari turned on their own kind with the fanatical dedication of the quantum enhanced. Their bird-like forms shifted and changed as the enhancement rewrote their biology, making them stronger, faster, and completely loyal to humanity's cause. Within hours, the entire Avari Defense Force was under human control. The floating cities began to fall from the sky as enhanced Avari sabotaged their own infrastructure. 15 billion beings who had voted to enslave humanity found themselves facing extinction at the hands of their own converted people. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Species after species discovered that their vote against humanity had marked them for destruction. The shard mines, with their crystal bodies and hive-like intelligence, lasted barely a day before their quantum matrices were corrupted by human enhancement technology. The aquatic depth dwellers found their ocean worlds boiling as enhanced humans manipulated their planetary cores. Some species tried to flee to other galaxies, but the enhanced humans followed them across the void. Human pursuit fleets moved faster than light itself, using quantum tunneling to appear anywhere in the universe instantly. There was no distance great enough to escape humanity's reach. Others attempted to negotiate, offering tribute and submission in exchange for mercy. These desperate communications flooded Earth's quantum networks, each one more pathetic than the last. "The hegemony offers to restore human autonomy in exchange for peace," read one message that Song Mijin presented to the War Council. "They're willing to provide tribute of 10,000 units of their most advanced technology." "Counteroffer," Kang Hyun replied without emotion. "Complete species conversion or total extinction. They chose to make us slaves. Now they can choose to serve us or die." The most desperate attempt at resistance came from the Verdani, the plant-based species whose philosophy of nonviolence had somehow led them to vote for human enslavement. They tried to use biological warfare, releasing spores designed to kill carbon-based life forms. The enhanced humans simply absorbed the spores and converted them into weapons. Within days, Verdani worlds were covered in hybrid plants that served human interests, their consciousness linked to the quantum network that connected all enhanced beings. But the aliens' greatest horror came when they realized that human enhancement technology could be used to create new species entirely. Dr. Song Mijin's laboratories began producing hybrid creatures that combined the best traits of multiple alien species with human quantum capabilities. The new hybrid soldiers were perfect weapons, beings with the strength of enforcers, the speed of Avari, the intelligence of shard mines, and the quantum abilities of enhanced humans. They were created for one purpose: hunting down the remaining alien populations and bringing them under human control. "We call them collectors," Song Mijin explained to a gathering of alien ambassadors who had come to plead for their species' survival. "They exist to gather genetic material from your populations and integrate it into our enhancement matrix. Eventually, every useful trait in the galaxy will serve humanity." The ambassadors, representatives of species that still hoped to negotiate their way out of extinction, stared at the collectors with undisguised terror. The hybrid beings stood 3 meters tall, their bodies shifting and changing as they adapted to different environmental conditions. Their multiple eyes glowed with quantum energy, and their very presence seemed to distort reality around them. "This is madness," whispered the representative of the silicon-based architects. "You're destroying the natural order of the galaxy." "You should have thought of that before you voted to enslave us," replied Lee Suho, who had arrived to address the gathering. "We offered you partnership and equality. You chose domination instead. Now you get to experience what it feels like to be property." Some species chose extinction rather than conversion. The proud warrior culture of the Blade clans fought to the last being, preferring death to serving their former prey. The energy-based Luminari simply dispersed themselves across space rather than face human enhancement. But most species, when faced with the choice between conversion and extinction, chose to live. Entire civilizations that had voted to enslave humanity now served enhanced humans with absolute loyalty. Their technologies, their knowledge, and their very existence became tools in humanity's expansion across the galaxy. The process of galactic conquest took less than 2 years. Enhanced humans moved faster than information could travel through conventional means, striking at targets before their enemies even knew they were under attack. Alien command structures collapsed as their leadership was either killed or converted, leaving their populations defenseless against human forces. By the end of the second year, fewer than 200 of the original 847 species remained in any recognizable form. The rest had been either eliminated entirely or converted into human-controlled hybrids. The galaxy that had once voted unanimously to enslave humanity now belonged to humanity completely. The final major battle took place at Nexus Prime itself, the massive space station where the vote for human enslavement had originally been held. Admiral Velketh, the military leader who had overseen Earth's conquest, had fortified the station with the surviving remnants of the 5 years had passed since the vote, and the galaxy bore no resemblance to what it had been before humanity's awakening. Admiral Kang Hyun stood in the renovated council chambers of Nexus Prime, watching as the last group of unconverted aliens was brought before the tribunal. The massive space station had been rebuilt with human quantum technology, its crystal walls now pulsing with energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The chamber itself defied conventional physics. The floor extended infinitely in all directions, yet somehow curved back on itself. The ceiling showed not stars, but the quantum foam that underlay reality itself. Only enhanced humans could navigate this space without losing their sanity. For unenhanced beings simply existing here was a form of torture. Dr. Kim Hyein, now serving as Chief Justice of the Human Dominion, read the charges against the surviving representatives. Her enhancement had transformed her from a simple lawyer into something that could perceive truth across all possible realities, making deception impossible in her presence. "You stand accused of voting to enslave the human species," she announced, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through quantum space. "The evidence is undeniable. Your species participated in a galactic conspiracy to deny humanity its fundamental rights and freedoms. The defendants were a pitiful group, the last free representatives of species that had once commanded star fleets and ruled entire sectors. Now they huddled together in environmental suits, their various biological forms barely able to survive in the quantum-enhanced atmosphere of the station. We didn't understand, pleaded the crystalline collective's remaining ambassador, its prismatic body flickering with distress patterns. We thought humans were dangerous. We were trying to protect the galaxy. From what? Asked Kang Hyun, stepping forward. His form seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, shifting between his original human appearance and something far more alien. From our potential? From what we might become? Yes, the ambassador replied weakly. Your species showed such capacity for violence, for destruction. We believed containment was the only safe option. And now you know you were right, Kang Hyun said with cold satisfaction. We were dangerous. We were everything you feared and more. Your mistake was thinking you could control that danger instead of working with it. Behind him, The quantum displays showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under direct human control, nearly 70% of all inhabited systems. Yellow zones indicated populations undergoing conversion to human hybrid status. Green zones were preservation areas, where unmodified alien species were allowed to exist under strict human oversight. Captain Zhang Xiaoyun managed the preservation zones from her command ship, the Incheon, which phased between dimensions as it patrolled the designated areas. The zones served multiple purposes. They were living museums of galactic diversity, research laboratories for ongoing enhancement experiments, and recruitment pools for useful genetic material. Daily report from Preservation Zone 7, Xi, transmitted to the council chambers through the quantum network. The Aquatic Confederation continues to comply with breeding quotas. We've selected 50 individuals for enhancement trials based on their respiratory adaptations. The preservation zones were perhaps the cruelest aspect of humanity's new order. The aliens within them lived in constant fear of selection for enhancement experiments, knowing that each day might be their last as their original selves. Some zones maintained entire civilizations in miniature, complete with governments and cultures, all existing solely for human entertainment and research. Your options are simple, Dr. Kim Hien continued addressing the tribunal. Complete submission and integration into our enhancement matrix, assignment to a preservation zone under permanent observation, or immediate termination. You have until the end of this session to decide. The aliens whispered among themselves, in dozens of different languages, their terror palpable even through the quantum interference. They had all heard the stories of what conversion meant, the complete rewriting of consciousness, the loss of individual identity, and the absolute loyalty to human interests that followed. Some species had chosen extinction rather than face conversion. The warrior clans of the Blade species had fought to the last individual rather than submit. The energy-based Luminari had dispersed their consciousness across the galaxy rather than allow human enhancement, but most had eventually chosen survival, even if it meant losing everything that made them who they were. The Verdani accept conversion, announced the plant-based species representative, its chlorophyll green form trembling. We choose to serve humanity rather than face extinction. Wise choice, Kang Hyun replied. Your species' biological knowledge will be valuable to our expansion efforts. You'll be assigned to agricultural development in the Outer Rim territories. One by one, the remaining species made their choices. The silicon-based architects chose preservation zone assignment, hoping to maintain some vestige of their original culture. The hive minds of the core worlds chose conversion, their collective consciousness making individual identity less important than survival. Only the representative of the Watchers remained silent. This enigmatic species had been the only one to abstain from the original vote for human enslavement, and their motives remained mysterious even to enhanced human perception. The Watchers? Dr. Kim Hien prompted. The being that spoke for them was barely visible, existing more as a distortion in space than a physical entity. When it communicated, the words appeared directly in the minds of those present. We knew this outcome was inevitable, it said simply. We abstained not from uncertainty, but from certainty. We had already seen what would occur if the galaxy chose to enslave humanity. You saw the future? Kang Hyun asked, his interest piqued. We see all possible futures. In every timeline where humanity was enslaved, they eventually became the galaxy's dominant species. The only difference was how many other species survived the transition. The revelation sent ripples through the quantum consciousness that connected all enhanced humans. If the Watchers had known this would happen, why hadn't they warned the other species? Because, the Watcher continued, responding to thoughts rather than spoken words. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. The galaxy needed to understand the consequences of choosing fear over cooperation. And what do you see in our future? Dr. Kim Hien asked. Expansion beyond this galaxy, other universes, other forms of existence that will either accept human dominion or be converted to serve it. You have become exactly what the galaxy feared, a species that cannot be stopped, contained, or negotiated with. The session ended with all remaining species assigned their fates. As the aliens were led away to begin their new existences as either converts or preserved specimens, Kang Hyun reflected on how completely the galaxy had changed. The enhanced humans now numbered in the billions, their quantum consciousness spanning multiple dimensions and realities. They had created hybrid species that combined the best traits of dozens of alien races with human quantum abilities. Technologies that had seemed impossible 5 years ago were now commonplace. Ships that could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, weapons that attacked targets across dimensional barriers, and communication networks that operated faster than light itself. But perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. Humanity had embraced its role as the galaxy's apex predator. The quantum enhancement hadn't just made them more powerful, it had fundamentally altered their perspective on existence itself. They no longer saw other species as equals or partners, but as resources to be utilized or obstacles to be removed. Status report on intergalactic expansion. Kang Hyun requested through the quantum network. Commander Park Jin-ho's consciousness responded instantly from the edge of known space. Scout fleets have identified 17 neighboring galaxies with intelligent life. All show similar patterns to our own galaxy. Multiple species, competitive rather than cooperative development, and technological capabilities that pose potential future threats. Recommendations? Preemptive conversion. We should begin the enhancement process before they have time to unite against us. The Andromeda cluster shows particular promise. 3 major civilizations with technologies we could adapt for our own use. Kang Hyun approved the expansion plans with a thought. Enhanced human fleets would soon spread across the universe, carrying the quantum enhancement to every corner of existence. Any species that welcomed them would be converted and integrated. Any that resisted would be eliminated. Dr. Song Mi-jin's research divisions had made remarkable progress in developing new forms of enhanced life. Her laboratories now produced beings that existed purely as quantum energy, creatures that could manipulate matter at the atomic level, and hybrid forms that combined consciousness from multiple species into single entities. We've successfully created a hybrid that combines shard mind collective intelligence with Avari flight capabilities and human quantum manipulation, she reported from her facility on the rebuilt Earth. The prototype shows remarkable adaptability and complete loyalty to human interests. Earth itself had become unrecognizable. The planet now existed partially outside normal spacetime, its surface covered with quantum